First of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight, and for the representatives who have taken the time to endure this marathon session. I'd like to make a special salute to. There's a number of people in this room who, for them, this is not merely a piece of legislation or a passing fad, but represents literally years of work. And so your attention to the details and to the opinions of everyone in this room is highly applauded.
Thank you, Pat. If I could just interrupt, I just want to say that's something the committee does quite a bit. And I think people, when they come up here to testify on various bills, don't realize that, this is something we do most Tuesdays between January and May. So thank you for the compliment. We appreciate people recognizing it.
My hat's off to you. I've got a very brief statement, but just if I can, a couple of quick editorial comments. In honor of my friend Blake Filippi, I'd like to perform an economics intervention tonight. Black markets occur in markets that are either overtaxed or absent competition. Black markets do not occur during extended periods of free market competition. They simply cease to exist for one simple behavioral rule. People are cheap. They will always buy quality product at less price when the opportunity is afforded to them, particularly in this case where we would provide them with a safe, regulated, analyzed, and clearly labeled product. With regard to Representative Almeida's concerns early on, possession of a plant, particularly legal, should never, ever be a precipitative factor in the arrest or detention of an individual here in the United States of America. Regarding databases of plants, it is simply none of the state's business who is growing a legal product. Simply none. With regard to the representative from the Attorney General's office, their concern regarding public referendums very early this evening, I will always respect the wisdom of the people on a legal issue over the opinion of a politically motivated Attorney General's office. With regard to study commissions, finally, I think we're all familiar with a few years ago, former Representative Jan Malik performed an extensive analysis of our tax system here. And after over a year of nights like tonight, people doing yeoman's work with research and analysis and discussion and debate and conversation, came up with the conclusion that there were no changes necessary to the Rhode Island tax system. And anyone with a passing familiarity with our fine tax system here understands that that is nuts. So continued debate of an issue that has been subject to analysis at a very high level, as Representative Villela mentioned, is just prolonging the inevitable. My name is Pat Ford, and I am chairman of the Rhode Island Libertarian Party, Rhode Island's fastest growing political party. Haven't heard of us? You will. In November's presidential election, nearly 15,000 Rhode Islanders voted for our presidential candidate, Gary Johnson. The Libertarian Party is the party of principle. Freedom is our birthright. We voluntarily consent to be governed, consent, I might add, that we reserve the right to withhold. As such, we respect the right of the individual to choose whom they love, where or whether to pray, or in tonight's case, what to ingest in their own body. Throughout the evening, I've listened to impassioned pleas by our leaders, electives, or in many cases self-appointed, to protect ourselves, well, from ourselves. Let's be blunt. This is a state that overtly profits from the sale of, amongst other things, cigarettes, alcohol, trans fat, pornography, caffeine, gambling, and notably the sale of medical cannabis, where a selected politically connected few wield the hammer of monopoly over the chronically ill and dying. The notion that our state has got a newly concentrated concern for our safety is ludicrous. This is a state in partnership with the federal government who has lorded over a failed war on drugs for generations. My message to the Attorney General and the Rhode Island law enforcement community: your efforts at interdiction have been an abject failure. We've heard tonight of several tragedies, and I have 2 daughters in college. Any sentient, caring human being who hears of these tragedies feels their stomach and their heart wrench. But the efforts at interdiction have been an abject failure. And instead, your efforts have accomplished the following. From stop and frisk in New York City to our very own Jump Out Boys here in Little Rhodey, drug interdiction efforts aimed largely at people of color have exacerbated a growing racial divide in America. The Force Amendment was put in place by our founders precisely to limit the power of government to engage in discriminatory search and seizure. Successive administrations by both major parties have violated that mandate. To my earlier comments, as in any effort at prohibition, black markets have been created, distributing to the public product that is dangerous, doctored, and overpriced, and resulted in exposing the population to a criminal element all too willing to upsell synthetic products that have caused a wave of deaths. It's helped spur a reign of narco-terrorism in neighboring nations, destroying their social fabric by a plague of terrible violence, helped fuel a wave of immigration that has divided families, placed enormous strain on our public safety net, and spawned a public health crisis. We've seen in many of our major cities a level of militarism in our police departments that has created an inevitable strain and a division between the body politic and those that would keep us safe. To those who claim to worry about the children, let's be clear. Any child in any neighborhood, in any town or city or village in Rhode Island has easy access to cannabis. And the current legislation does absolutely nothing to encourage their use of any controlled substances. Simply put, cannabis is a natural product with emerging testimony to its curative powers that when used in a social environment bears absolutely no distinction from any other mood-ameliorating substance. Any potential harm in its use accrues to the individual choosing to enjoy it. Any potential harm to others as a result of its use will continue to be illegal. No free man or woman should ever be punished in a punitive manner for a personal decision to enjoy a simple plant. Legalize cannabis, please. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ford?